Hello, my name is Michael Uyttebroek, and I'd like to do a presentation today entitled Timeline of the Creation Energy Part Piece to the Creation Itself. This presentation includes information from various FIGU sources, mostly written by or quoted from Billy Eduard Albert Meier, and the sources will be specified as we proceed. From the Depths of Outer Space by Billy, page 190. More than 4.8 million years ago, the first ones of these human beings, who are called Omedan, then reached that stage of development through which the human life form is distinguished, namely by rationality and intellect, and thus also by a recognized consciousness. In Nocodamian, his subsequent personalities in the sevenfold prophet lineage on the earth by Bernadette Brandt, page 82, Billy states, the pure earthborn or earth created or the pure human beings of the earth have been between 6 and 8 or 12 million years old since their first beginning as still non-human beings, whereas the faraway travelers from the depths of the universe came to Earth with regard to the Nocodamian Hanok groups between 8 and 12 million years before the present time in order to become active in the mission. Once there is a creature whose brain is sufficiently developed that it is capable of a consciousness evolution, then a spirit form incarnates, because it is its first time, into this primitive form of a human being for the very first time from out of the realm of the we form of the new spirit forms, therefore never having left that realm before. This is derived from Geisteslehre 95, page 1139. Therefore, the spirit form of the human being has never inhabited an animal or a plant, but it enlivens only the human physical body. In Contact Report 711, Ta recounts to Billy about Ta's father, Svat, researching the ancestors of the small human beings that lived 40,000 years ago around Lake Sanura, where the Semjase Silver Star Center currently is located today. Yes, Ta states, interested, he, his father, continued his research into the past of Earth history and about the Earth humans, and traced the developmental processes of the hominids back to the early times of 17 million years. He then went back many more millions of years into the past, and around 45 million years ago in the area that is now Germany, came across the first life forms that developed into a form in early times from which the hominid evolution emerged around 17 million years ago, and from which, in the course of further millions of years, small-bodied human beings ultimately developed. He discovered these life forms at the place where he was also together with you in order to teachingly instruct you where the actual origin of the visible human life forms began, in the area that you know as Messel Pit near Darmstadt. This first development of the life form, which led to the creation of the first hominid species, was found there for the very first time by my father Svat, from which, over many millions of years, the effective first human being emerged from the descendants that developed from it in what is now known as North Africa, as well as in areas that are now called Europe, South Africa, South and North America, Asia, and Australia. So he established that all the small human beings he researched arose at approximately the same time all over the world, and that they were the first and oldest human beings on Earth, completely contrary to the false research results of today's earthly scientific anthropology, whose alleged knowledge is based only on incorrect and hypothetical or made-up assertions. According to information from Arahat Athersata, 129 billion or 1,000 million spirit forms have at least once been activated, incarnated, reincarnated. However, most of them are inactive. In Diversicum by Guido Musburger, page 224, due to its age, the Earth has been so developed for a long time that no new spirit forms incarnate or no new spirit forms are created from the original spiritual energy mass. Consequently, only spirit forms that have already gone through numerous rebirths still incarnate on the Earth. Well, in fact, if they're spirit forms, they reincarnate on the Earth and the personalities incarnate. Okay. According to the Planetary Storage Bank, there are at present about 129,000 million spirit forms or human spirit forms that have been reincarnated several times in the we spirit form level in the beyond. And this is information that is coming from Arahat Athersata, pure spirit level. As previously discussed in earlier presentations, the spirit form resides in the physical body for 2/3 of the time, and then 3/3 of the time in the death-life realm. So for example, if a human being lives to be 60 years old, then 90 years would be spent in the death-life realm, or 100 in the physical realm, and then 152 years in the death-life realm. But that is under normal circumstances where there is no overpopulation. But due to the fact that there is overpopulation, the fetuses require a spirit form to enliven the body, and therefore is pulled prematurely from the other side, and the personality has not been fully put together by the overall consciousness block in the death-life realm. Therefore, it's premature. So what Guido writes about this topic is as follows. In Diversicum, due to the gross overpopulation on the Earth, it is not surprising that large parts of the population appear confused and can easily be misled because the personality and the consciousness structures of the predominant part are still completely immature. A large portion of the human beings who were born too early or much too early find it very difficult or impossible to find their way in life and suffer from a regrettable lack of stability. In about the fluidal energy, respectively, fluidal powers and other things by Billy on page 146, and with the human creational spirit form, in contrast to that of the animals and of all the animals and other creatures, it is given that after 40 to 60 million years, it eventually separates itself from the material human body and enters into spiritual levels in order to continue to evolve there, in order at the end of all times given to it to enter into the creation and unite and become one with it. And in Diversicum, page 309, even human beings who have already reached the level of an Ish-Wish or Ish-Rish, which is the female, so Ish-Wish is the male, Ish-Rish is the female form of human beings. So let me just reread this. Even human beings who have already reached the level of an Ish-Wish, Ish-Rish in the course of their evolution are still subject to the law of reincarnation, incarnation. The same applies to human beings who are of the level of Srut or of a Banstrut, which is several times higher and can only be acquired when the highest possible form of evolution of consciousness has been achieved, which a human being can attain as long as she has a physical body. This status, however, can only be attained in the field of the spiritual teaching with all the laws, recommendations, and modes of action connected therewith. The terms Ishwish, Ishrish is briefly discussed in Talmud of Emmanuel, another book by Billy, on page 10. It goes on to state, it's a level achieved in terms of technological science, historical science, medical science, etc. The highest level of an Ishwish or an Ishrish is related to the spiritual science into which the creational science and life science sciences are anchored. So these are human beings that have achieved high levels of knowledge. $18 million years are spent in the physical realm, calculating according to terrestrial years. And this is from the Nocadamian book by Bernadette Brandt. So of the 40 to 60 million years of physical incarnations of the personality and reincarnations of the spirit form, 18 million years of that time is actually spent in the physical life. The rest of the time, the majority of the time, is spent in the death-life realm. Diversicum, page 309. Incarnations or reincarnations only come to an end when a human being discards his/her material body, and the spirit form then reincarnates into the half-material plane of the High Council. From this semi-material level, there is no more rebirth, but only the transition to the lowest pure spirit level of Arahat Athersata. Here's a little information about the Arahat, or High Council. Initially, I mistakenly assumed that these photographs on the left-hand side there, which Billy took, were of a dwarf race which was part of the High Council. However, in Contact Report 123, Simyazi states, the objects observed and photographed by you come from the Andromeda areas, and these are fine material flying objects, similar to the bioorganic flying objects that you know. In this case, however, it is such that these flying objects are fine material and not bioorganic, and that these, depending on preference and need, are generated by powers of consciousness from a very highly developed human dwarf race, whose size amounts to approximately 70 centimeters, whereby I speak of a body height. This race, which is even unknown to us, is fine dimensioned and advised by the High Council, which has sent them here to clarify our interests with you in detail, because it was found that we would not assert ourselves strictly enough. Diversicum, page 254. The first level of the fine material matter is the half-spirit level High Council, with the half-spirit forms that no longer have a gross material body. The life forms of this level are not visible, like a translucent veil, but they are no longer tangible. They do not simply move freely in space, but are a kind of wobbling form of matter and are still planet-bound. The half-spirit level is a transitional level that leads from the coarse material into the fine material, respectively, into the first pure spirit level of Arahat Athersata. In the half-spirit plane of the High Council, a spirit form is still a single individuum with an overall consciousness block, with a subconsciousness and a central consciousness. However, the incarnations no longer take place in the same way as with the material human being, but a transformation takes place from one energy level to the next. And from the depths of outer space, page 211, this High Council is not domiciled on a Federation planet, but lives as a half-spirit waveform in the Andromeda region, approximately 2.2 million light-years away. The half-spirit forms of the High Council have an enormous knowledge and the corresponding wisdom at their disposal, which is why they were sought out as the highest form of advice by the Pleiadians, Pleiaren, and their allies of the Federation, with an entire population of 127,000 million human beings. And the designation of High Council already implies it only gives advice of extremely high value and no commands at all, whereby the advice is imparted by the wishes to the respective governments of the peoples, who then present everything to the individual peoples, who are free, according to their own choosing, to follow the advice or not. As a rule, however, the individual human beings and peoples thereby follow the advice of the High Council to its full extent, in the cognition that these are high value guidelines. Now we move on to the pure creation energy levels. In Nocodamian, etc., by Bernadette Brandt, page 11 and 12. To assume that the spirit forms after entering the half-material level of the High Council, or the fine material pure spirit levels from Arahat to Pitali and beyond, will only passively evolve as part of the creation, is really out of touch with reality and stupid. Because each spirit form retains for the entire duration of its existence it retains its spirit individuality, created and characterized during an average of 40 to 60 million years of evolution life, which also continues to evolve individually in the pure spirit levels, but in a community and in uniformity with all the other spirit forms of the respective level. The functions of the material consciousness have become superfluous in the spirit levels and have completely passed over to the Gemüt level, which is a pure spiritual swinging wave level, which is why the human spirit form no longer has to reincarnate in a material body. Here are the names of the pure creation energy levels, or the pure spirit levels, taken from Diversicum, page 252. And as you can see, each name, each pure spirit level has a name with a meaning. The lowest being Arahat Athersata level, the valueful level which looks at the time. And the highest level, which would be the last at the bottom there, the Pitali level, or blooming level of the creation, bloom of the creation. A note about the pure creation energy levels from the Decalogue. Between October 14th and November 17th, 1975, Billy was given the 12 recommendations and their explanations in a one-way transmission from the Pitali level, which he diligently wrote down word for word without any alterations. These can be read in the book Decalogue do Decalogue. On page 18, Pitali initially explains, line 7. Your achieved level, however, enables us to reach into you in order to transmit to you our message for the human beings of your world, whom I will address with my words, still to follow, through you and your writing itself. Understand, my Vazen has slipped away from the material and has entered into the levels of the pure spiritual forms. My life is no longer based in the life itself. It has already become the advancing being, and thus to the genderless. My form is no longer subject to the positive and negative, no longer to the male and female. My form is the equalizedness, the genderless. In this form, names are no longer given to us, as this applies to your level. But since you seek designations because you still require them for your fellow human beings, I will give you a name for me. Name me, therefore, with the designation Petali. In the foreword of the same book, Billy explains, the we spirit form, which conveyed its high cognitions to me, called itself Petali, which explained that it represents an I-we oneness that could proclaim itself in the transmission, if required, as a unity or just as part of this form. In Contact Report 238, line 661, Billy asks a question to Ta, Billy. And where did the spirit forms of the different levels come from? Like, for example, Arahat Athersata and Petali and so forth. So he's referring to at the beginning, where did they all come from? Ta, at their formation, all higher levels, through the creativity of the creation, are already equipped with spirit forms which are equipped with the required knowledge and all the wisdom of that pertinent level. These spirit forms then further develop themselves quite normally, so they thus are subject to natural evolution. They are then, now and again, also the leading and guiding spirit form powers of these levels for those evolving ones following from lower levels. These are the latest calculations from Billy, which in turn were published in FIGU Bulletin number 77 of June 2012, in an article by Bernadette Brandt. Each main level of the pure spirit levels has a duration of 52 million years, and this is in addition to the 7 subsequent levels, each with 7 sublevels. So as you can see, Arahat Athersata initially has a duration of 52 million years. And then there's the Bodhi-Har level and all the 7 sublevels. And each one of these levels, for example, the Bodhi-Har level or wisdom level, is made up of 7 sublevels, each of 7.4 million years. So the Bodhi-Har level has a total duration of 51.8 million years. So if you total all of the sublevels, along with the Arahat Athersata main level, you come up with a total of 414.6 million years. And this is consistent with each one of the pure spirit form levels. So going back here, each one of these main levels has a time duration of 414.6 million years. And so if you multiply those 7 together, it will give you the total amount of time that the spirit form has to go through in the pure spirit levels, which comes to just under 3,000 million or 3 billion years. calculated in Earth terrestrial time. So therefore, the time duration for the spirit form of the human being to merge with the creation is on average a total of these 3 levels. And the addition of all these 3 together brings you to just over 3,000 million earthly years. In Wiedergeburt, Leben, Sterben, Tod and Trauer, page 19, and this is by Billy. And only from this moment on does the spirit form become conscious of itself. So when the spirit form actually enters into creation as creation itself, whereby, however, at the same time, the merging with the consciousness of the creation takes place, whereby no own creativity of the spirit form itself comes about, but only one that is given in connection with the universal consciousness or the creation itself. And finally, we will just show you the symbol for Schöpfung, or creation. It's taken from Symbols of the Spiritual Teaching, the German English edition, on page 411. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.